I look like I have a cone hat on.
No.
Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened.
There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America.
Good night, and good luck.
Hey folks, it's Rick, and welcome to The Elephant in the Room. I am traveling this week, so the background's a little different than what you're expecting. The light's a little different than what you're expecting. And I'm a little bit at 8,000 feet of altitude, so it's a little more hoarse than what you're expecting. However, I really want to talk to you tonight about two big things that are going on. First off is that expectations and reality sometimes diverge. And when they diverge, you have to pay attention. We were told in the last 2 weeks that Joe Biden was a senile old man dribbling in his oatmeal, that he could barely recognize his own family, speak his own name, stand up straight, walk in a straight line. We were told that Joe Biden was done. It was over. It was completely out of the question that he would stay in the race. Now, when I'm recording this on Thursday night, and it's been a hell of a Thursday night because Joe Biden went out and gave an hour-plus press conference after the NATO summit, where the expectations for him were basically zero. The frenzy, which has been going on in the media for the last 2 weeks, has had one goal: to drive him from the race. Now, look, as I've said before, it's not my business to decide if he stays in the race. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a delegate. I'm not going to the convention. His fate should be decided based on his performance. And if the folks at the convention say he's not ready or can't do it, then that's that. But as he said tonight, show me who's better. Joe Biden knocked it out of the park at the NATO summit press conference. And again, my goal is not about Joe Biden. It's about Donald Trump. But what we saw tonight was a guy who knows more about foreign policy, more about domestic policy, more about how to be president than Donald Trump has ever exhibited in a single moment of the 4 crapulous years in which he held the Oval Office. And certainly more than Donald Trump, he of the shark batteries and Hannibal Lecter discussions and all the other crazy bullshit that is Donald Trump has expressed at any point since he lost the presidency in 2020. Now look, we are in a point right now where what I call the Blue Falcons, you guys can look it up, what Blue Falcons mean. There is a flock of Blue Falcons around Joe Biden right now, desperately trying to get him out of the race. Again, not my business if he stays or goes. Really not. My business is defeating Donald Trump. My business is beating Donald Trump. Nothing in this race will change what we do at the Lincoln Project at all. We will attack him. We will diminish him. We will demean him. We will get inside of his head. We will steal voters from him. We will make Donald Trump's life a living, constant hell. That is what we do. That is what we specialize in. There is no other group that has held the line like the Lincoln Project against Donald Trump. We will continue to do so. There is no other group that has proven over and over again that Donald Trump's feral sense of animal cunning is triggered by us more than anyone else. Let's be honest, folks. There were $3 billion spent in the 2020 election. $3 billion. The Lincoln Project spent about $100 million of that. One group, only one group, had Donald Trump reach out to the Department of Justice to try to shut them down. And that was us. So as we go forward, we have seen, I think, a very dark moment in our history. Yes, Joe Biden had a awful, terrible train wreck, shit show, burning tire mountain of a debate. What you saw tonight, as I'm recording this at the NATO summit, was a guy in charge of his ideas, in charge of the presidency, in charge of what he believes and what he knows about the country and the world, in a degree of granularity Donald Trump could never hope to rival. And I find it fascinating that we are still facing this frenzy, and I capitalize the and frenzy. The frenzy will go on because a lot of folks in the media believe that now their goal is to prove that they're right. Now their goal is to prove that Joe Biden should not be president. Now their goal is to say, we are correct that he's too old, too infirm, whatever the case is. And yet, when they're confronted, again, as I said in the beginning, that differential between reality and perception is enormous. And tonight, the reality of Joe Biden, that he's in command, that he's capable, that he's confident, that yes, guys, he's old as fuck. Okay, I get it. He's old. He sounds it. He looks it. And yet, you heard in the NATO press conference, a guy who was answering questions without a teleprompter, without backup, without a lot of notes. He was answering questions about policy, about relationships with world leaders. He was answering questions about whether he believes that he has the strength, the stamina, the ability to continue in this role. And he was doing so in a way that I promise you disappointed a lot of reporters. It made a lot of reporters very sad. They've been working so hard the last few weeks to drive him into the dirt, to crush him, to break him. And tonight you saw something that didn't give them what they wanted. And again, folks, it's not my job to decide who the nominee is. I'm not a Democrat. It's my job to lead a battle against Donald Trump every day. And I want to say this to my Democratic friends. And I've said it before. I said it in the last video. I said it on Joy Reid on Wednesday. If you are not waking up every minute of your day, if you don't spring out of bed and go, how is it I can best kick the shit out of Donald Trump? You're not doing politics right. If you wake up every day and don't say to yourself, how is it I can make the case that Donald Trump spells the end of the American experiment, the end of the democracy we love, the end of the country that has made every freedom you enjoy possible, you are not getting it. If you don't wake up every day and say, what am I going to do to ensure that Donald Trump does not return to the Oval Office for 1 millisecond of the rest of his filthy, crapulous life, you are doing this wrong. Now, at the Lincoln Project, we believe that Donald Trump can never return to that office. We believe that Donald Trump can never return to power. And as we go forward, we're going to talk more about how we're going to do that in the coming weeks and months. Two things. First off, before I taped this, we scared away a bear. And I mean that by a literal actual bear, like Ursus arctos, like an actual brown bear. We're out fundraising out west, and a brown bear wandered through the area. So we had to chase it off. That's what Lincoln Project does. We chase off bad creatures. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the behavior of the media. Now, look, I want to do one thing first to surprise you. Today, as I'm recording this, the New York Times actually came out with a 4,000-word editorial saying that Donald Trump was unacceptable for office. Would have been helpful to issue that before your long set of stories. I believe it is somewhere around 300 stories at this point in the last month about Joe Biden's age, infirmity, the people who don't want him to be president, the people who don't want him to stay in office, the people who want him to leave now, the people who want to name anybody else, all these things. The perspective that we've had so far from the media is something I've talked about for a long time. There are two herds in Washington. One herd are lobbyists. And man, when those animals smell something dangerous on the savannah, they jump up off the water hole and they all run the same direction at one time. They are more bovine. They are more ungulate animals. They are more like antelope and gazelle. They are not aggressive creatures. They are fearful. They don't want to be wrong. They want to run away from danger. Now, the behavior of the national media, in large measure, and look, guys, I'm not a media hater. I'm just not. I think journalism and the press and the media play a vital role in American society, culture, and government. But there have been a lot of folks in the media, and I will say this specifically, a lot of assignment editors from two large papers in the Acela corridor, the New York Times and the Washington Post, who have spent the last 2.5 weeks, every single minute of the day, hunting down the most obscure, remote, bullshit, staffer anonymous quotes from interns. I had a congressional chief of staff tell me they had caught one of their fucking interns trying to leak a story to the Washington Post about Joe Biden. This intern had no knowledge of it. But these people are all trying to make their bones right now. And look, I get it. If you're young and ambitious in D.C., you want a connection suddenly to Peter Baker or Maggie Haberman or Jonathan Martin or whomever. By God, you're going to try to be valuable. You're going to try to be useful. You're going to try to produce a story that's sexy and big and clicky. But I want to get to that other point right now about why the media is doing this. There are a lot of folks at the major papers. The New York Times has admitted they have a vendetta against Joe Biden because he wouldn't give them a private interview earlier in the year. A couple months ago, they came right out and said it. He didn't treat them with the respect they thought they deserved. So they have been leading the charge and writing story after story after story after story. The frenzy is not organic. It is created. It is manufactured. It is a thing that is built. Is Joe Biden in trouble? Fuck yes, he's in trouble. They have a bad debate? Absolutely. But they have built this monstrous concoction. They have built this huge construct around that debate that was, as I talked about earlier in this video, not congruent with reality. Is he old? Yes, he's old. Guys, come on. Nobody's playing the game that he's not old. But what you saw tonight was a man more knowledgeable about government, about policy, about our international relations than Donald Trump could ever be if he isolated himself from all forms of social media and went to Oxford for 1,000 years. This is not a question of the media treating both sides equally. It is a question of the media deliberately choosing to ignore a criminal and a rapist and a man of the lowest possible character, as the New York Times described him today, and say that, he's probably not as bad a choice as Joe Biden. Because that's really what it's coming down to. They understand in the media what will happen if they continue this game. They will weaken Biden, they will weaken the ticket, and Trump will win. And look, I'm going to have some really, really hard talk right now from my friends in the media. And I'm not saying this about line journalists or frontline reporters, but I'm saying this about the people that own your companies. When David Zaslav at CNN says he doesn't care who wins the election, he only cares who will deregulate the media industry, that's not someone who understands the system he lives in. That is someone who does not respect or understand the system of the rule of law, respect for the Constitution, respect for the First Amendment, that is embedded in a Western democracy of the Joe Biden era. If you look at what Donald Trump has promised, and he will keep that promise, he will use the power of the presidency to punish anyone who expresses or publishes an opinion that is at variance with his own. I think this is one of the most dangerous and pernicious ideas that I've ever seen in my life. It's not just that the clicks are delicious and the traffic is delicious. There are many who believe that Joe Biden is not as fun as Donald Trump, not as interesting as Donald Trump, not as exciting as Donald Trump, not as colorful as Donald Trump. And you know what? They're all absolutely right. They're absolutely right. He is boring. He's like watching paint dry in a dark room. This guy, compared to Trump, is absolutely dull. But the excitement you think you get from Trump is the excitement of the clown capering on the walls of a burning city. The excitement you think you get from Trump is a man who tells Americans to inject bleach into their bodies and shove UV lights up their asses to cure COVID. The excitement you think you get from Trump is a man who believes that Hannibal Lecter is a real person. The excitement you think you get from Trump is the man who fully is the absolute wellspring of all things with Project 2025. And if you think that's going to be exciting when he breaks the country apart, when he ends the constitutional republic we all value, when he breaks the great tradition of American democracy and replaces it with an autocracy and a right-wing authoritarian bureaucracy, you'll come back to me and you'll say, oh my God, Rick, you were right about Joe Biden. You were right that we should have paid more attention to Trump over Biden. We should have fought Trump instead of fighting Biden. We should have fought Trump because of all the things he would do to this country. And you know what I'm going to say? I'd like another fucking mojito to whoever I am addressing on the island I have to fucking run to. You guys need to face it right now. Donald Trump will destroy this country. He will break the media who's helping him win right now. He will break the backs of a free press in America in a way that you have never imagined before. Anyway, folks, that is the elephant in the room for this week. I'm Rick Wilson. At the Lincoln Project, we hope you will like, subscribe, and do all the things that feed the mighty algorithm that rules our lives. Check out my other podcasts at The Enemies List. I'm also on Substack at The Rick Wilson. And we wish you a very good evening and very good day until we next meet again.
Good night and good luck.